self-doubt incites fear, and I think when you let fear in, it can be an absolute creative murderer. And I have a real tug of war with that generally. I think especially in lockdown, I've really felt that. Really struggled with being creative in this time, trying not to be like hard on myself about it and just be real. Um, and then I guess on the other side of things, like when you're feeling good, the music comes good, and just trying to ride the wave of whatever comes to you. If you know what I mean? It's a real game of like juggling. It feels like you never plan stuff and it happens. You just have to ride stuff out. I like to play the villain rather than the victim. I think that's generally how I just like used to like it in all Marvel comics when like every villain in it would have the most troubled story, and I think no one, like, good people do bad shit and bad people do good things. Like, I don't think that there's ever such a monosyllabic black and white version of events. I think there's intricacies that are to be explored, and like that's kind of my point. It's like women especially are portrayed as like the damsel or the heartthrob, and I'm like, I'm all of those things, and I'm a villain, and I'm actually like really vulnerable, and all of those things can exist in a person at the same time, and like that's the kind of arc that I try and do. But I don't know if I do that. I just feel like so pigeonholed all the time. I feel like people were like, you're not really punk enough to be like a punk singer, and you're not really like schmoozy enough to be like a heartthrob. I always felt like I wasn't one or the other enough for everyone. Whereas like dudes in fucking bands, like there's another four white dudes in a band playing guitars. Like no one was like, oh, are you a villain, or are you a damsel? Like that doesn't happen with men. Like this isn't a character profile that exists, so it's about fucking that off. It's similar because the best bits. The thing is, after every take, we always do this thing where I like get them to put loads of, or whoever I'm recording with, to get loads of reverb on my cans, and I just make weird noises, and like that's always like the most liberating part of making music for me, is like seeing how weird I can be and letting out this kind of like absolute childlike maniac. And um I don't know any women that are like childlike maniac is how you would describe like their free state of play. Um, so and then it's cool because then you're like, well, and then you feel like kind of badass. You're like, I'm fucking Sylvia Plath, fucking making banshee scroll noises, and all of those sounds get added. Like I love screaming like a banshee. It's fun. I like to jar people. Yeah, lockdown is like meeting myself for the first time. Like everything in our lives have been performative experiences until now. It like blows my mind. Like even when you put makeup on to leave the house, that is literally for the people that are watching you from the outside. That is so that other people, when they see you, have a perception of you that you've created. That's performative. And as a performer, the whole ecosystem that is around me is like a performative experience. And so to have that like removed was suddenly like, well, who the fuck am I? I don't even know who's Izzy that doesn't leave the house, and can that Izzy create, and what what do I who am I at the bottom of that? Like knowing yourself artistically is not the same as knowing yourself intimately and getting stuck in with those slightly uncomfortable truths about yourself, or your widely held beliefs about your own esteem or your own value. And that was fucking weird. Like I just could not, like now I'm a bit better, like I can kind of see like the different sides of me. Like my therapist says, there's like a village of people that live within all of us, and this is someone that I barely fucking know. I'm just like, oh hey yo, like nice to meet you, wow. And the girl that wrote that song, I'm like, that was like somebody else, something really sad about it. Yeah, I think pressure's a big part to play in it. I think because when you have this big serious piece of gear, you just feel like you have to make this big serious thing, and because you have to make this big serious thing, suddenly it becomes this big unfun thing. And if it's a big unfun thing, then it's probably gonna be shit. Um, you know, Mike from Royal Blood has this like kind of toy keyboard. I mean, it says it's a toy keyboard. It's actually really nice, little, but it's tiny and it's playful, and it does like little vintage organ sounds. And we wrote so much on that, and on pianos, and just not computers basically, and not techie things, and like, I heard the story once that Alex Turner writes everything on like reel to reel and tape, and he carries around a tape recorder in a suitcase. And this is probably all just like fantasy, isn't it? But he said that it was because he just wanted to get rid of screens. And I relate to that. Like, I identify with that. Like, I feel like as much as screens open opportunities for me, they also fill me with like this sort of dread and anxiety. Even things that felt fun, like drawing pictures on paint as a kid, now all of them it all just feels way too serious and severe.